we are picturing a sports car which is speeding over a flyover, a metro which is gliding below, and a jet which is taking all above it. So it's literally a multi-layered growth story for India. What do you say, Navre?
Actually, Gandhi bhai, all cylinders of Indian economy are firing. The first analogy which comes to my mind, because you mentioned three modes of transport zipping at a very high pace, is like GDP has three components, right? The primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector. So what we know is in last results that we had in almost 1 week back mentioned that agriculture has been good because of rains. Then manufacturing also has seen a positive improvement, manufacturing, mining, and services, which occupies a major chunk of Indian economy. That is always the backbone in a way.
Yeah.
That also has grown very much.
It's not just GDP. So GDP obviously has been a beautiful surprise for us, a pleasant surprise for the Q1 numbers. But apart from GDP, we see the GST numbers which have come in, the UPI transactions that we're going to cover in this video, and a lot of more data points that we see, inflation, etc. All of it talking about a positive story, in a comprehensive way about India in all perspectives.
करेक्ट भाई, एक्चुअली मतलब जीडीपी के नंबर्स तो बहुत पॉजिटिव हैं. मतलब लास्ट ईयर एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम इंडिया ग्रू एट अराउंड 6.5%
Okay.
year on year, and now the numbers have shocked everyone, because whenever we were reading the newspapers the prediction was 6.7, 6.8. Nobody I read said 7% भी होगा, and it has come to 7.8%.
No, and it is great because of the macros around it. Because the environment was challenging. और
Correct.
ये challenging environment में if we are able to show a 7.8% GDP growth, which is phenomenal, and which is why I think उनका overall for the entire year the forecast has now been pushed upwards from 6.2 to 6.7 for the
हाँ,
entire
वो तो
year.
होगा ही. मतलब if the first quarter itself has been so positive, and now we are getting into the festive season with so many reforms, the world economy is crazy. So definitely all the agencies will have to boost the numbers. And just for reference, we would like to show that India is here, fastest growing economy, like the topper of the class for quite a few years. But globally, the people that we look up to are the ones that are ahead of us.
So we have performed exceptionally well. Like I told, 7.8. A distant second is China, which is 5.2, and Indonesia is very close by, as you see here, which is 5.1.
5.1.
Then we have US, which is 2.1 percent growth, and I think for Japan and Germany, what's the numbers? Navre?
Japan is 1.2 and Germany is a negative minus 0.2. So,
I am
so
assuming with this pace, very soon we are going to then outpace Germany in terms of the GDP size, hopefully.
absolutely, absolutely. But one thing to note is that US is almost 7 times India's economy. US is $30 trillion, India is $4 trillion, 7.5, and despite that, it is growing at 2%. So a basic math will tell you that a 7 time larger economy growing at even one third or one fourth the rate of India still will be
The
adding more,
absolute terms will be higher. Yeah.
will be higher. But yes, we are getting there. We will do that much better.
There are four main components for GDP.
Right.
One is we talk about, which is the government spending, which is one of the cylinders. Second, and the major one for India particularly, is consumption and the story around it.
Like what you and me spend, like private
Yes.
consumption.
The third one is the investments, which is the from the private side again, the Capex and the investments in general. And the fourth one is the net of imports and exports. So if it's exports, it's better. If it's the inverse, if it's vice versa, imports में, it is not so great for India.
Last year at this point of time, rupees में देखो तो India was around 44 या 42 trillion, नहीं 44 trillion rupees. 1 trillion is close to 1 lakh
Correct.
crore. Close to नहीं, exact 1 lakh crore. And then we have grown by 7.8%, so we are now close to 47.8 trillion rupees.
So right, so now we've talked about the four cylinders, and we also talked about the GDP numbers. Now let's see that out of these four areas, which are the ones which are contributing positively nowadays. So we've talked about these four, right?
Correct.
Now according to you, exports minus imports का जो net है, is India doing fairly better as compared to last year? Is it a positive contributor to GDP? How do we read this?
So what I remember is basically कि the total exports also has two components. One is the goods merchandise exports, second is services. ये दोनों मिला के we have grown almost 5.9% as compared to last year. That is one thing. But again, as always with India, the rate at which our exports grow, imports always grow faster than that.
Because
Right.
of the
So friends, everyone would be thinking that this time the numbers would be so much better because last year government spending से तो ज़्यादा ही किया होगा, considering last year was an election period. So this year government would have spent more, which is true. Actually very true, because last year government spent 9 trillion rupees. This year it has spent 12 trillion rupees. उसमें भी अभी न्यू रियलाइज 12 ट्रिलियन का भी स्प्लिट होता है, तो गवर्नमेंट का एक्सपेंडिचर दो टाइप का होता है. दिस वी हैड कवर्ड इवन इन बजट का जब डिस्कशन होता है कि रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर एंड कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर. तो गवर्नमेंट स्पेंड्स ऑलमोस्ट 2.7 ट्रिलियन on capital expenditure, like all the infrastructure projects and major GDP boosting initiatives, and revenue expenditure, which is its normal subsidies, salaries, the operating cost for the government, that is close to 9 trillion rupees. तो बट द पॉजिटिव थिंग इज कि एज कम्पेयर टू लास्ट ईयर 50% ग्रोथ हुई है. मतलब लास्ट ईयर हमने सिर्फ 1 ट्रिलियन डाला था गवर्नमेंट ने केपेक्स में, तो 50% ग्रोथ इन गवर्नमेंट केपेक्स इज अ वेरी पॉजिटिव साइन. बट जस्ट अगेन फॉर ऑल द पीपल टू अंडरस्टैंड सम नंबर्स कि अभी वी आर एट 47 ट्रिलियन रुपीज़, उसमें से 12 ट्रिलियन इज गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग ओनली. सो यू रियलाइज 25% अप्रॉक्सीमेटली सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग से आ रहा है. हमारा एक्सपोर्ट्स एंड इम्पोर्ट्स का differential is negligible, in fact negative है, because our imports are always more.
And I think for us, a boon or a blessing in disguise is the capital flow which comes in terms of FDIs, etc., which comes under the investments pool. That adds to our kitty, right?
Correct. तो इन्वेस्टमेंट वाला चीज ऑल्सो आई डोंट थिंक इतना ज्यादा कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है ना इन दिस.
नहीं, इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं कर रहा है. कंजम्पशन इज वन which is I think 7% growth था YOY, which was better.
Right. So basically now there are some numbers in our mind, hopefully, and then as we go ahead month on month या quarter on quarter, we'll keep a track of these numbers. तो याद रख लेना 47 ट्रिलियन रुपीज़ इन क्वार्टर वन, मतलब अभी हम लोग अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 2025 के जून महीने के नंबर से ही हैं. दिस इज द साइज ऑफ इंडियाज इकोनॉमी, एंड देन गोइंग फॉरवर्ड विल कीप अ ट्रैक ऑफ दिस बिकॉज द प्रोजेक्शंस वंस अगेन दैट वी रेड वर बाय 2027. Sorry, we'll switch between rupees and dollars because numbers across are like that. 2027 में the prediction is कि India will touch $5 trillion, which will be a very good number, and 2030 तक it is said $7.3 trillion. This is as per PIB की जो report that we had read.
Exports में भी one good thing that has happened is because of the US tariffs, we have front loaded a lot of exports to US.
हाँ, correct.
With the fear of US tariffs, India for Q1 has touched $179 billion. And this is what
Imports.
I'm talking about. This is the imports that I'm talking about. The exports is 112 billion. So
This is merchandise
like
exports, right?
This is just merchandise exports. If I combine the services as well, that touches to $210 billion.
I read an article Piyush Goyal ka. Basically last year FY25 India touched $820 billion in exports. उसके पहले FY24 we were at $778 billion, and this year he has said that we are confident to cross that much. So by 820 we maybe see we will reach 850 or 870, 900. So again a target is कि we should touch $1 trillion in exports, but services are helping us a lot.
2027 or so.
Yes, hopefully.
GST 2.0 reforms. Now we have an anticipation that the consumption is going to grow.
Correct.
Which means there will be private investments will go, increase expenditure. There will be, let's say, a factory is getting built. So there is people who will get wages, etc. for building it. There will be new job and employment, etc. So people like us will get employed and they will get the salary, etc.
And we'll get a better performance bonus because the targets are getting met, targets are getting surpassed.
Perfect. So which means that even the purchasing power of salaried people will increase, which means that consumption will increase even further.
And
so I feel like
also government has reduced the income tax rates. So already the salaried class is experiencing some increase in purchasing power without actually any increment in salaries. That is a very sizable
thing for us.
Yeah, this year is going to be very, very good, and I think the government has done something massive considering the level of reforms. What will be interesting to keep a track is कि how will government manage the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit मतलब government के revenues will get affected. Income tax भी कम कर दिया, GST भी कम कर दिया, तो hoping कि ये दोनों कम करके जो पैसे बचते हैं, people will spend it. That will result into more consumption. That will result into more corporate tax, more corporate profits. मतलब crazy.